Ladies and gentlemen, what is good? You are listening to the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast. I am your host, Cheats. The crew is all here. Flobo Voice is here.
Sir.
All About April is here. We're very excited. On this episode, we are going to talk a little bit about the Dodgers going to the White House.
Among other things, Cheats.
I took it.
Yeah, it's a crazy week in baseball. I'm kind of glad that everything's rocking and rolling. You know what I mean? Myself got a chance to see 2 more ballparks on my chase for 30. So, you know what I mean? Good and bad.
This is hilarious. Is anybody hearing the double?
No.
Or is it just me?
Just you.
All right. I'm sorry. We had a little bit of technical difficulty. So hold on. Let me fix the technical. Let me fix the technical issue that I'm having.
Man, I probably got 2 tabs open.
I don't. Yep. While we're welcoming everyone in.
You want me to talk or you want me to keep the thing going? Like, what's the vibe?
Hold on 1 second.
I bet.
Got it. All right. Everything's 100% fixed.
Oh, snap. What do you do? What do you do?
Ladies and gentlemen, hey, sometimes it's a live podcast. We'll edit some of this out, but I want to welcome everyone back in, and we're just going to quickly start over. So this is what we're going to do. Roll 2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast. I am your host, Cheats. The crew is all here. Flobo Voice is here.
Yay.
All About April is here.
Yeah.
On this episode, the Dodgers go to the White House. They removed a Roberto Clemente sign, and then they put it back. There's extensions galore happening all over the place. Oh, and they're also playing live baseball now at every level, from AA, high A, single A. Every affiliate has kicked off now. So we have got a wonderful show for you. As always, the Black Baseball Mixtape is brought to you by Stilo Sports, Players Alliance, Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds, Number Game Scorecards, Minority Prospects, Red, Black, and Green Baseball. Make sure you check out all of our sponsors. Flobo, how are you feeling, my guy?
Man, I mean, I feel kind of weird even saying how good I feel because the week you had, my brother. But you know what I mean. The chase for 30 moves on. I got 2 more ballparks out the way. Went to see Toronto officially. I was in that town a couple times, but this is the first time for baseball. It snowed. I posted my real-time reaction in the Discord over the Black Baseball Mixtape Discord.
That's right. You look like you were freezing.
Oh yeah, it was freezing. And you know, if you're in a place that snows, when it actually snows, it gets warm. So I looked around, I was like, oh no. It started to snow at the same time. I got the little 4-hour Flix Bus Connect to Detroit, and I saw the Motor City Kitties on opening day on a Friday. So it was pretty cool to see Detroit really turn out for their team. So I have a good week, you know what I'm saying?
That's fantastic. So hold on, you said it already, but let me reiterate. What number of ballparks is this for you?
This would be 25 and 26.
So 25 and 26. By the end of this season, you'll be at where?
I have everything planned except for Ohio. So if nothing happens, 28. Hopefully I want to get them all done this season, but we'll see.
We will see. Brand new in the booth with Flobo Boys has just dropped as well, featuring our good friend Ed. I think it's Ed Rivera, right?
From we're locked up in line. Yeah, man. I love the fact that we're celebrating opening day opening month by having weekly episodes of In the Booth. We go back to the bi-weekly schedule when we finish that. But Ed has been just a treasure, man. He's like an inspiration for those of you who want to get into media.
Well, that's fantastic. I listened to most of it this morning, and I got to finish up. I'm a big fan of Ed and yourself, so it's a really great conversation. So make sure you check out In the Booth with Flobo Boys as we move on. I'm looking up April. I know it's been touch and go there, April. How are you feeling? The Dodgers were hot. Now the Dodgers are
not
as hot.
Let's just say that.
Not as hot. But how are you feeling?
I'm feeling a little bit better. You know, the car accident had your girl down for a little while, but I'm rising back to the top. And you will have a new episode of my podcast this week. So, yes, things are trending in the right direction.
Trending in the right
go.
direction. This will be episode 3 of
Yes.
Tiffany Talk, right? Hosted by All About April. Do we know what the topic is?
Yes. The topic is.
Spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen.
Breaking news, y'all. It's a tease.
It is all about women in baseball / softball and the quest for 5.
There you go. I've got a hookup too for you. I got something I want to share. Someone reached out to me on Instagram. Somebody slid in my DMs, not that way.
What other way is there? Cheats in baseball.
No, there's plenty of ways. Trust me. They did not want anything but to tell me some information. But yeah, I got some information on the women in baseball and some of the things they're doing with the national women's baseball movement. So I'll share those along with you as well. Hey, look, this has been already, like I said, a busy week, busy days. Today was a really, really fun day in Black Baseball Mixtape world. We dropped a podcast this morning with Tyrese Turner, who is an infielder / outfielder now for the Double-A Akron Rubber Ducks. So that's already out. I thought today's Finish Your Breakfast, which is the daily Black Baseball news, was actually really good as well. And we dropped the article about about Mookie Betts and Doc Roberts going to the White House, mostly about Mookie Betts going to the White House. But that landed on the blackbaseballmixtape.com today. And that's where we want to start. So we want to start with a conversation as best we can about what happened earlier today. And what did happen earlier today. The Dodgers, as we speak, I believe, are playing in D.C. against the Nationals as we're recording this. The game might have just finished up. But earlier today, the Dodgers did their 2024 World Series celebration. They went and visited the White House. Now, here's something. It's an interesting conversation to have, and it's an interesting conversation to preface because a lot like, the national anthem pre-Kaepernick, right? These are things that were, or even the national anthem pre-9/11. These are things that weren't necessarily this kind of fusion of sports and kind of politics, if you will, that, if anyone's old enough to remember, I certainly am, after 9/11, September 11th, it was a very, they're singing God Bless America. That's when God Bless America started in the 7th inning. And you saw kind of big flags in support of first responders and first troops. It was an interesting exercise because, again, on theory and on surface, it looks pretty above board. But when you start to dig into it some, and some of it gets a little more interesting in conversation. I say that because obviously then we get to a point in the sand or a line in the sand about the national anthem and Colin Kaepernick in the NFL. And again, prior to Colin Kaepernick, there were protests during the national anthem. If, people will go back, especially in the NBA, where they look at, Craig Hodges or Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf and certain things, or they were looking at even prior, I think it was prior to Colin Kaepernick, it was like Marshawn Lynch was like sitting on his water cooler. And it was, it wasn't a story until it became a story, and then it became a big kind of political exercise. That sort of have happened, especially as we went through the last President Obama, President Trump, President Biden, and now back to President Trump. It has gone into a will they, won't they visit the White House to celebrate championships. And so there are teams, there are players, and for the preface of this conversation, most notably Mookie Betts is kind of the person that we look at the most, simply because in 2019, when the Red Sox won the World Series, it was in President Trump's first term. Mookie Betts refused to go to the White House. This time around, President Trump is back in the White House. The Dodgers win the 2024 World Series. Mookie Betts announces on Friday that he is attending the White House celebration with his team on Monday. He gives all the reasons why. He actually says that he kind of regrets not going in 2019 because the narrative shifted from a team celebration to about him. He said he did not like that. So Mookie Betts and the rest of the Dodgers showed up at the White House today. Shohei did the shaky hands. I think Shohei was pictured in the Oval Office. Clayton Kershaw gave the speech. Mookie Betts, they did, President Trump did kind of single out Mookie Betts and said the Red Sox messed up on that trade, and Mookie's there, and he's with the team. Flobo, I'm going to start with you, and I'm only going to ask in this way: big deal, little deal, no deal at all that the Dodgers attend the White House celebration, and there's this kind of focus on Mookie Betts and to a lesser extent Dave Roberts.
So I can't give you an easy answer to that because I feel like it shifted over time. When you brought it up in the group chat over the weekend, I was like, straight up little deal, right? Okay, you got to go with your team. You are an individual. You have beliefs, but at the end of the day, you're a contracted talent to a baseball team. Just do what you're told. They just show up, do your thing, and anyone who's had a bad job or a boss or who has to come to work on a Saturday and do ropes training is like, whatever, right? But I did read your article. I did read the article this morning, the Black Baseball Mixtape.com. It really went through your emotions where Mookie really was pushing the culture in a way that no one else was. He was able to put himself out behind the scenes in his podcast and showing him off the field and being a role model in bowling and baseball and all that. And that does have some weight for the future generations. I feel like if Mookie just went the first time, it wouldn't be an issue. But I do think you were very smart to say, look, there was a time where he said no. Why the change now? Is it kind of an admission that this is the world we're living in? Is it an admission of like defeat of what the resistance was or what it is about showing us in good lights or not? So I want to say over the weekend, listening to you, seeing the article, I see how it could be a bigger deal, especially when you're on a team like the Dodgers. The Dodgers can very easily repeat this year. And you are the most prolific black baseball player, not named Aaron Judge, because you're seen in Japan because you're on the Dodgers. And so that comes with a certain kind of weight.
Well said. April, I'm going to go to you. April and I know we talked about this. I wanted to run the article past a Dodger fan before I released it. And April was said Dodger fan. I'm just going to ask you the same way I asked Flobo, April. Mookie Betts, Dave Roberts, Dodgers going to the White House. Big deal, little deal, no deal at all.
As a fan, I'm going to have to say that it is a big deal, but I think that it is a big deal for different reasons. I know the article you wrote this morning, which y'all, if you have a chance, please go read it. It's absolutely
That's fantastic. A good point. I would tell people you should go read it, right? And you should read all. You should read all of it. Like I know a lot of people stopped after the first paragraph and was like, "I'm angry too," and I was like, "Well, if you keep reading,
right,
go ahead."
Because I feel like the article really encapsulates my feelings about how initially I don't think that I ever had a sense of anger with Mookie. It was probably more so a sense of disappointment because he has stood on certain principles and things before. But one thing that I do know about the Dodgers is as a team, they collectively make decisions. And so I'm not saying that that was the case in this particular time, but I do wonder if that was a large part of this. Where my anger comes from really is with the organization. And before I address them, let me also say I loved how, I don't want to get too much into the article, but I love the range of emotions that you expressed within that, because I feel like going through that process is probably something that Mookie Betts did have to encounter, and we do have to be aware he is really the only Black American baseball player on that team. And being in a workplace where many times you are the only Black person on that team, it's difficult because you see things happening. You want to run it past someone, you can't do that. You have thoughts and feelings. You see something, you can't express it And it's hard. And sometimes you do go along with the process, one, to be able to keep peace, but also to look like a team player. You wanted things to be able to run smoothly. My issues is mostly with the Dodgers organization. And here's why. I listened to Andrew Friedman talk about how the team makes moves for the benefit of the fans. Y'all have had fans screaming, hollering, hooting for the past couple weeks, and y'all did not consider what this looked like to fans. There are fans who are no longer here for obvious reasons. There are fans who are hurting for obvious reasons. I watched this administration give a snarky response to the citizens of California during the fire. I watched them erase a, a member of this organization who literally broke barriers within Major League Baseball. And not once have y'all addressed that. And y'all gave that half done thing during Black History Month, which I'm still not over that either. So for you to go there, and I get that people want to respect the office, but if the person there doesn't respect that, what exactly are we respecting?
Yeah,
And
I think. Sorry, I cut you off.
and my other thing is, and I think this is the biggest thing, and this is not just for the Dodgers organization. This is for people in general. Are we separating politics and sports or not? Because if we're separating politics and sports, this is something that needs to be addressed. Are we going to keep on watching or keep on going to the White House? Or is this something that needs to end? So I had a range of emotions in regards to it, but for the Dodgers organization, shame on you, because as a fan, I'm disappointed. And one of the reasons why I am a fan is because of the legacy of Jackie Robinson. And I don't think that they have ever fully addressed what has happened. And that is painful, to say the least. Okay.
Flobo, you were going to jump in there?
Yeah, I apologize for ending your point early, because I think a sports team meeting the president has always been political on some level, but now it has shifted to being partisan, right? So if someone does go versus someone doesn't go,
that's a good point.
And I think that wasn't always the case. It was always like, hey, if you didn't like Jimmy Carter, but if Jimmy Carter was president, you will go and do it. And I said that should be a telltale sign of where we're heading as a populace, where someone can make a decision and have that kind of effect. If there was a movie, Mookie would say no. I have my feelings, because he did have them before. It was confirmed. He didn't go last time. Yep. But then at the same time, if the entire Dodgers organization is in the White House and you're outside and catering, it's going to look bad. And it's going to look like you don't want to be a part of what they're doing. So it's an unenviable position. For those of us who are out there who are Black and conservative, I just want to make a note of that, because they do exist. And I understand that's kind of like, what is the big deal, right? He's the president. We honor the president. He was voted in with a fair election, give or take. You have to understand what he decides to do. But I will say, you can't do that and still have someone, in this case I'm referring to the current sitting president, say things like, why put politics in sports in terms of NFL? So it's like, which one is it? I think this is confusion, and not having the choice to opt out of that confusion is what makes people kind of upset.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of the times we live in, but I think you're right, Flobo. I think you make a great point in regards to it's always been a level of politics, right? Political theater, if you will, when championship teams go to the White House. Or I remember, and I'm washed and old, but I remember, like, the Lakers celebrating the NBA championship and the president calls. And it's like, Mr. President, Magic Johnson's got the trophy. The president's on the phone, you know what I mean? Like, congratulating them on a championship. So, I mean, I remember those types of things. I do think that, I think April said it best, whether it was on podcast, on the record or not, but there was like I think the Kaepernick stuff makes this line of demarcation, right? I do. I think that everything viewed before kind of Kaepernick, everything changed in regards to the intertwining of sports and politics, and what you were talking about, Flobo, the partisan nature of this. I think Kaepernick is a hard line in the sand of when things changed. Now, in like that timeline, I think looks different. And then obviously you talk about, we wrote in the article a little bit about kind of things that organizations, including Major League Baseball, are doing basically out of fear of this administration. And
Right.
so it's an interesting thing. My wife always brought up a good point too. And again, I want to be very clear. I think I have landed way more on the side of sympathy for Mookie Betts as and again, Mookie Betts doesn't care about like if I feel sorry for him or not. Like, you know what I mean? Like I like again, we'll also get to this in the kind of the last segment to wrap it up. But I really, really want to highlight the point that April is making, and in both Flobo you said as well. There is no one in the world that is in Mookie Betts' position. He is the only African American on the 2025 Los Angeles Dodgers roster. He's the only one had to make this choice. And so I like the weight of doing that and him acknowledging no matter what I do, someone's going to be upset. Someone. And so, one of the things I'm also thinking about is like, all right, you make that calculus and then you make a decision of who am I okay being, you know what I mean? Who am I going to be okay with people being upset with me? And I think he was like, I would not be okay if my teammates were upset with me for the rest of this season because of the relationship that we have. And again, me personally would have been like, certain people can be mad at me. I don't want other certain people to be mad at me. But we talk about this all the time. I like half the things I do in my life is because I'm afraid of my wife. So I'm not gonna have my wife mad at me. I'd rather have Flobo mad at me, right?
Fair.
You know what I'm saying? But so I and I think where we are kind of societally, I think that rang more prominent, his teammates and that journey that they're on now rang more prominent than the larger body of, is community culture is going to be bad at me, right? So do I think there was some capitulation there? I can't speak for him. But I mean, the words that I wrote made me think like, yes, he made a decision that compromised probably his personal beliefs because he wanted to do what he wanted to do was move it from a story as fast as humanly possible. And that's where I'll leave it with you guys, and we will talk about some other things. I can't promise we're not going to talk about baseball in the next story. But my question to you, April, is: do you think Mookie Betts succeeded in what he wanted to do by going and now he's already playing baseball? I think this story is off. This story is going to not be a story by Thursday. Did he accomplish what he wanted to do?
I think that like when I went to open my internet to get on here for this, he was the leading headline. Dodgers Mookie Betts visits the White House. So this is going to be a story today. This will not be a story tomorrow, Thursday. I think that people are going to forget about it and ultimately move on, which is what I think the team really wants. We live in an age where something happens every freaking day on social media or in the news. So if it's not something bigger than this, it is not going to be something for us to remember. And ultimately, what I was going to say is these are things, when you make these kinds of decisions, this is something you have to live with personally. That's something that I always tell my students, like, can you live with this particular choice? And that's something, whether how history looks back at people, that he will have to do. But within the next few days, this will not be a story. We're already seeing things happen within MLB where this will be done.
Flobo, same question to you? Did he accomplish what he wanted to accomplish today by going in and maybe possibly having this move on faster?
He's gonna probably feel awful for the next 24 to 48 hours and I know like the confirmation of that was when Trump made the
Personal.
trade joke, right? And I was kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
you thank you for your loyalty here today. I'm going to prop you up to my constituents.
Mm-hmm.
It's going as far as the news cycle. Yeah, by tomorrow we're going to think about whoever wins the NCAA tournament. They're going to go to the White House after this. But
Mm-hmm.
I am really waiting for that podcast or that biography when it drops about how the process you got to that. You know, sometimes it's going to say, I don't mean to be funny, but something that I ask myself when a situation is like this, I said, what would Superman do? Because Superman's a really good person or good alien or whatever. And I'm like, I can see both. I can see Soup flying to the solitude place and chilling, and I can see Soup trying to shake the hand, trying to make peace. And so I bet Mookie had that same walk, and I would love to hear that at some point. But to answer your question, yeah, in 36 hours, it's kind of a non-issue.
And Flo, I'm glad you mentioned Black conservatives as well that do exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because my inbox today was flooded. Obviously, my day today was extremely unique. But my inbox today was flooded, and quite a few people obviously were telling me their thoughts about it. Kind of telling me, reading what I wrote and responding to it. Directly if they have my phone number, they're DMing me. But but then again, there was obviously people that I know, African Americans, who are more conservative leaning, that really wanted to challenge certain parts of, of kind of, my thought process and so forth. My favorites are the folks that are like, you might not know this, but Jackie Robinson was a Republican. And they would tell me, and again, a lot of people were, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. At a certain point
we all know that. We all know that.
No, but it was so I had a lot of conversations today, and one of the things I do conclude when I think about kind of the totality of this as we are right now is that I actually believed Mookie Betts accomplished exactly what he wanted to accomplish by going. And what I mean by that is he is not. I mean, he's the story to an extent. He's a story in the Black community. He's a story in the community of people that are usually, I would say, opposed to this White House per se, this administration. But he is not going to be a target. He's not going to be a target of conservative media. He's not going to be a target of this White House and this administration. He is not going to be a target because he showed up and now he wants to be. If it's Mookie Betts, he wants to move on as fast as he is praying that the national championship game is amazing and tariffs and trade wars take whatever can move the Dodgers off this page. And I believe Dave Roberts is in the same boat because they want to be back together, be unified, try to win a championship, right? So I think he was thinking what happened last time by him not going. That would have been a 48-hour news story if he went or Red Sox go to the White House that turned into a whole deal that he didn't go. And again, Mookie can speak for himself. He did speak for himself, but it also is kind of when you make decisions like that, there's also now these level of expectations or even maybe an understanding or false understanding of what his values are, right? And so I just think that he accomplished what he wanted to accomplish by going today, trying to kind of knock this, not be a distraction, not be a target, move on as fast as possible. And, there are going to be people that I think will be disappointed and it'll knock a little bit of the expectations of what we thought, his value system was. But again, like Abel said, he's got to make peace with that on himself and his family. And I think he did enough of that conversation with his wife and his family. Because again, you're married and you got a family. You don't want them to be a target either. And these are things that could happen in particular in this administration if you do this. Now, I will say all that to say this. that I tried to categorize this as best I could. I think that is a clear distinction and difference than some of the athletes that focused on activism in the time of civil rights, right?
Yes.
In the time of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, those were people that would say, I need to do this for a greater good, and I'm willing to take the smoke, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a level that I feel that in this particular situation with this administration in this time, Mookie Betts made a business decision that I don't want the smoke, right? I just don't want it. I would rather just move on, be a ball player, and not take any smoke for making any stances whatsoever. So my challenge, and I said I lied. I said I was going to leave. I'll leave you guys with this question. The next time Mookie Betts speaks out, the next time he wears a T-shirt that says "We need more black people at the stadium" or something of that nature, does it ring less effective because he went to the White House?
Mm-hmm.
See, you say no, April. I've got a ton of friends in my inbox that says absolutely it does. He
Oh,
he
tell me
he
why.
is, huh?
So do they think that him going diminishes
Yes, that
what he
diminishes
does?
what he
Okay.
thinks. What? See, I've got people in my inbox that says the next thing he does will not be viewed with the same amount of weight because he
Interesting.
capitulated here. But
Can I
I will ask you. I will
so
ask you because you said no. You said no. You believe next time he makes a stance, whether it's for equality or so forth, or if he speaks out and says something against his White House, you think it carries the same weight?
at the same time, like I I don't hold athletes as a leader for decision making for me. Like, I think that it's great that they do things like that and they have a voice to use it for them. But I'm gonna be completely honest. Some of the people that I have loved and admired over the past few years have left me extremely disappointed. And I wish that they would have never said anything. I think that social media has exposed and left us in a space where we are completely aware and in the presence of celebrities and athletes more than we typically have been. For me, I think that this was a decision that he made in the best interest of his family. He has two young kids. We see some of the things that are happening. So I sympathize with him in different ways as well. But if he's still going to do things to actively be present in our community, I'm not going to let that stop him from being that, because I believe that people who should be leading are people who are educated in particular areas that should be doing the work. Now, you participating in doing the work is an added benefit, but I'm not looking to an athlete to be that particular person all the time because of what we have seen happen in the past in regards to some of them. And I hate to say it that way, like it's not a ding to some of them, but it is disappointing when let me not say athletes, because it's mostly like musicians where I see this happen. But I think especially too as an educator, I just don't want to hold them to a level of accountability, because they're also human beings. They're going to make mistakes and errors. And when that mistake and error comes, I hope that they reconcile, come back around, and then choose to make the right decision the next time.
Interesting point. There you go, Flobo. Same question to you, and we will move on. I promise. But uh, does any of this that's happened over the last 48 hours or so, the next time, or if there is a next time Mookie Betts says something publicly, does that color your lens at all?
My lens, no, but it will be less effective due to no fault of his own. These ideals of having more people, more black people at games is pretty galvanizing. Like, hey, he's right. That's kind of a universal thing. But if nowadays, whether it is social media or changing tastes or the fact that podcasters, ourselves excluded, can
Sure.
be platforms of influence,
Sure.
when you do something like that, that can be seen as one or the other, that's going to splinter whatever your message is going to be. Now, yeah, it was a lose-lose situation for Mookie, so I will not hold it against him. He is only one person. He doesn't represent the entirety of the Black experience. But you have to realize when you say, all right, guys, I really want more Black people at the stadium, there's going to be a section being like, I don't know, last month I saw you shaking hands with that dude, so I don't want to listen to you no more. That's what's going to happen. It's the way it is. And it's unfortunate, but that's just, so I got to say, yeah, we'll diminish a little bit. But
I mean, I think his future right now, and again, this all changes too. April's talking about music. You make a hit record, guess what? A lot of people, a lot is forgiven if you make a hit record. If the Dodgers keep winning,
not with me, because there are some artists that I will never ever support.
It takes some time, April. People asking for Michael Jackson again. It's crazy.
I understand what you're saying, but in great, that's because you have a value system that hits that. I'm telling you now, there's a whole lot of people saying a whole bunch of crazy things, doing a whole bunch of things, but if they make a hit,
right,
if they make an undeniable hit, then in the sports world, was a hit, winning championships, getting back to the World Series. If Mookie's playing, if he's balling out of his mind, a lot of people will be just like, all is forgiven. I think in the posture that he's in right now, he would benefit, like April was saying, and like I think he benefits from just being in the community and doing the work. If he can be in the community and doing the work, I think that's where a lot of folks make their mistake in regards to just like trying to understand the headways of public opinion. Because some people think they're invincible and then public opinion tells them they're otherwise, and vice versa. If Mookie Betts is doing camps for kids and he's doing things that help give access to baseball in the inner city and all that stuff, fantastic. I think everybody's going to support that. If he's getting families and inner city kids and Black kids at baseball games at Dodger Stadium, fantastic. They're not going to turn down those tickets. I don't think. I wouldn't. But if it comes to a bigger thing, and if something in this administration 2 years from now does something that really activates him, there will be a callback. If he says something, there will be a callback to him standing right there. And so there is this balance, right, that people will balance out. And I tend to lean on the side of you guys. I think he was in an impossible position. And, no matter what he did, it was going to be, viewed by certain people in certain ways, myself included. And I think he chose on the side of what's the quickest way I can get through this, then the safest way I can get through it for my family. And it reminds me of, there was this old thing in the military. They would say, like, what's the quickest way to get out of boot camp? They were like, graduate, right? Like all the other stuff, trying to get out, you're going to be there longer. So if you just go through it, you'll be home in 3 months. If you try to get out of it, you're going to be there for 2 years. You know what I mean? So, I wish the brother the best as he moves forward. Again, I think as much as people talk about it, and we certainly talked about it, and I wrote about it, and there'll be more conversations having nobody's in his shoes, and his shoes are the ones that are probably the heaviest right now, right? So, speaking of heavy shoes, to turn the page just a little bit on some more things that probably could have been avoided, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Pirates, shall we?
That's like their whole MO. Things that could have been avoided. Pittsburgh.
Yeah, let's just again. So the story is already. At this point, the story is a bit mute, so we won't go as long on this. But over the weekend, during the Pirates home opener, someone realized and took a photo that stated that they replaced just a signed tribute of Roberto Clemente in right field, where Roberto Clemente was a right fielder. Obviously, Hall of Famer, humanitarian, amazing person by all case in point. And they just kind of replaced it with a, hard alcohol cocktail sign. And so someone put a side-by-side up It really caught wind when Roberto Clemente Jr.
Mhm.
saw the social media posts and said no one in the Pirates consulted them about removing the tribute to Clemente and putting it in advertising above it. The Pirates came out and had to make two statements. The first one was from a spokesperson. And I mean, I get it. They were a bit defensive. They were caught off guard. And they were like, hey, look, that was never meant to be a personal tribute. We just didn't have anything to put in right field. We do now. Here are all the other tributes that we did. We have, including a statue of Roberto Clemente outside the stadium. So it was a whole bunch of stuff. Then the owner comes back because they're getting cooked by this point. They're just getting fried. And again, the Clemente family releases a statement, an official statement that said nobody consulted them. There's a lack of communication. This shows kind of the disrespect that they've had with the Pirates for a while now. And so the owner comes out and says, basically, my bad, blame me. We're going to put the Clemente sign back up, which they did already. And it just was a completely avoidable thing that would have probably been bad either way, because I think they said the Clemente sign has been up there for like 4 years. So people kind of know what to expect when they go to right field at PNC Park.
Mhm.
But again, all of this stuff probably could have been avoided. Flobo, I'm going to start with you. When you hear these types of things, this level of kind of management or mismanagement, lack of communication, it's all fixed now. But what comes to mind? Because it's a lot of heartache for.
You know what? I was part of the core that was amplifying Clemente Jr.'s tweet because I saw that too, and I was like, "Well, homeboy's upset." I don't think I even follow Clemente Jr., but it showed up in my timeline, and I think it's emblematic of a bigger problem, right? If there really was good communication or the past recent year respectful tribute that the state was okay with, it would have been a thing where it's like, okay, things change. But the fact that he's going like, whoa, why are you erasing me? Especially going back to our last story about how the climate around us is changing because Clemente was a person of color, you have to be a bit more defensive. And I'm not trying to say it's because of this person or that person, but it kind of is. And the Pirates have just been a symbol of futility for so long. When they do that, it does seem like a point of erasure, which I'm sure wasn't their intent, but that's exactly what it looked like, and they got rightfully dragged for it.
April, what'd you make of all of this?
Rightfully dragged for it is absolutely correct. And let me also go on ahead and say, if I'm the owner of a team and people are already coming to my ballpark and yelling, sell the team, all your T's better be crossed and your I's better be dotted. There is no way that something like that happens on anyone's watch. And y'all already know, like, PNC is literally a top 5 ballpark in Major League Baseball. People are always looking and showing pictures, etc., of PNC. And I feel like this is absolutely a sign of the neglect or the whateverism is happening within that organization, because something like that just doesn't happen. This is someone who is beloved by all people. Of course, people are going to notice it. And I honestly think they did it thinking like, we'll do it and they'll get over it. But no, people are not going to get over a figure who is so memorable to not only the organization, but also Major League Baseball. This is beyond a flub. And I'm glad that the owner decided to say, put it on me, like I deserve it. But at the same time, what are we doing to ensure something like this never happens again? Because we're seeing way too many of these things happening with this particular organization. And like I said, sell the team, boo. You need to get it together. Not okay.
I think the word we're all looking for here is it's extremely tone deaf. That's what it is. Obviously the lack of communication with the family is poor. That's just poor leadership, poor communication, and so forth. But I think you're right. I think it's tone deaf to think people would not care. And I think that's what they thought. They had an opportunity to get revenue. They wanted to get revenue. They put up an ad based off of the fact that this is a paying ad to get revenue. And they probably did not think going into a new year that anyone would care, notice, screenshot, and so forth. But Flobo, as Flobo mentioned, the climate that we're in is so different that you're going to look at anything that looks like you're, erasing history, you're trying to move on. Was this sign removed because it's a person of color? Is it a DEI sign? Like, people, you know what I mean? And so people, the everybody's antennas are up. Everybody's antennas are up. And I think the Pirates just thought, hey, look, this is a way to get revenue. Let's remove it. And it's very similar to what we saw a little, what was it, a month ago or so? Very similar to the Department of Defense when they were they were just clearly scrubbing DEI stuff off their website, and they removed Jackie Robinson. ESPN, Jeff Passan, these guys picked up, hey, Jackie Robinson's military tribute page is now gone. They had to put it back, and they said, oh, it just got caught up in a sweep, right? It's like these are tone deaf actions, and again, not to harbor, because obviously we're baseball fans here, but it's also kind of in Major League Baseball removing all their diversity pipeline, all of their diversity initiatives off of their website, and you think that you're just gonna do it and no one's gonna notice. People noticed, then they have to answer for it. And I mean, and that's what happens. I think everybody's antennas are up. And I think, it's at this point of where we are, it's tone deaf to think that people aren't going to notice. They're not going to ask about it. They're not going to be upset about it. And if you're obviously the Clemente family, you're going to be extremely upset about it. Right. And so I think that's what happened. I'm glad they put it back. And I hope, like the statement said from Roberto Clemente Jr., I hope that there is actual direct dialogue now with him, because that's a whole nother issue. Like, why aren't y'all talking to the family of Roberto Clemente when you have all of these tributes? I actually don't think I'm less of a big deal that they decided to make a decision to get the revenue, because I do believe they have a lot of tributes to Roberto Clemente around the stadium, including the statue. But it's got to be, I think it's got to be clearly communicated. I think everybody has to be on board, and they have to be prepared for the climate we're in, because somebody's going to do that. Somebody's going to show the screenshot side by side. And again, if they were even a little bit more prepared, that says, yes, you're right. We removed the sign for an advertising. We communicated with the family. We've assured them that the legacy of Roberto Clemente would stay on forever. These are all the other tributes. If they were prepared for that answer, then it's less of a story, because then the statement that comes out from the Clemente family isn't, they didn't tell us about it. It's, we understand. We talked to the ownership. We know all, you know what I mean? Like, and it turns into a less of a story. But I think that, again, I think this is just kind of the climate we're in, Flobo. I see you.
It was just kind of visually jarring, because that's the original logo was a diamond of Clemente's name, and it got replaced with like not like a word mark, but it was like a can. It was literally a can of alcohol. And you're like, what? Like, you think no one will figure that out at all?
It was a big can. And again, I mean, we're talking about again, you're talking about a new season. Like, I went to a double A weekend. Started on Friday. I went to double A games with my Richmond Flying Squirrels Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The outfield wall in a double A ballpark is loaded with advertising, like 2 layers of advertising. And every year there's a new advertiser. There's some old people that are removed. There's some new people that are put on. And we're not, honestly, none of us are none the wiser unless you're looking for a specific, your favorite advertiser, right? But I think, in this climate with something like the legacy of Roberto Clemente, you're going to expect people to come to the stadium and even maybe want to take a picture of it or take a picture by it, so you should be a little bit more prepared. All right, let's put a bow on this. We got a little bit. Let's actually talk some. I appreciate this podcast and both of you individually for going through this and processing this with us. I know, because again, you were talking to April a little bit about where's the line between kind of sports and politics. And obviously, there's a lot of folks. We're a baseball podcast. There are a lot of folks that will say, "Where's the baseball? Why are we talking about social commentary?" Um, there's a lot of episodes that we have in the can. I think this is probably the one we talked about social commentary the most. So enjoy. But again, I am not one to separate those things. I always love to talk about our community, our culture, as along with baseball as well. Obviously, baseball usually takes front and center. So I thank you both for indulging the conversation up until this point. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have to thank our partners, Steelers Sports, the Players Alliance, Numbers Game Scorecards, Rebellion Harvest Sunflower Seeds, Minority Prospects, Red, Black, and Green Baseball. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about right now. Unfortunately, April, your Dodgers did take an L today in DC.
Dang.
So that puts them now at 9-3. They are third, or I think it's so technically they're tied for second. The Padres are 8-2. The Giants are 8-1 in the NL West. I want to ask you and all of you, because the NL West has got now what seems to be an upstart Dodgers team, a very good Padres team, and a very good Dodgers team. Is the NL West the best division in baseball? Also in that division is your Snakes.
Snakes alive.
Lobo. They're not bad.
Yo, they're all 500. That matters.
They're better than the Orioles right now. So are they Flobo, is the NL West the best division in baseball?
Gotta say, yes, it is, man. Look, I would say you look at the Snakes being 504th. That's always a good sign about how healthy the division is. I know the Dodgers had the 2-game head start in Japan. Why those games count as a regular season before spring training is another issue, another episode entirely. But the Giants, man, I mean, as early as about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when the Cactus League was over, MLB Network Radio was saying this is the best culture. Buster Posey's building something. And I was like, whatever. I heard it all before. But they came out hot. And to have them really have a depth on their lineup, I mean, this could be a very scary division to be a part of. I mean, look, I always kind of half root for the Rockies, but they may have no chance or less than a 0 chance this season if everyone else is going on 100%.
I agree with you 100%. I know, April, you watch the NL West closely. Is it the best division in baseball? Is there any threat at this point still to your 9-3 Dodgers?
I think there's always a threat with that particular division because in the regular season, I'll say last year, the Padres actually beat us head to head. So, which was why when we got to the playoffs, they knew us so well. They knew how to be able to approach us. It was all those scoreless innings that got to them. However, what we're seeing is something that has been there for a while. We know in 2021, the Giants had actually had the best record in Major League Baseball. I think the Dodgers were they both had over 105 wins. Let's go there. And then we saw 2023, the Diamondbacks, they make it. And then we saw the surge of the Padres. All 4 of these teams are doing exceptionally well. And it's unfortunate that they happen to be in the same freaking division. And the Rockies are just battling for last place at this point. But and they have great players. It's just really, really tough to be in a division with those who are performing at such a high level. So yes, I do believe that the NL West is the best division, not just because, that's my team, but I think that the NL West has been one of the best divisions in baseball for a while now. So listen, it's competitive. I know whenever I play any of those teams, they are bringing their absolute best. Now, I think my question to y'all is what does that mean long term? Because yes, they're all having a good moment right now, but let's say something like this continues. What does that look like for, the postseason to have something like this, but to have such great teams sitting at home watching the others over them because they're not in the division?
Let me be frank with you, because I'll tell you what it looks like.
Oh, no. Oh no, Chase.
I'm listening.
I'll tell you what it looks like. Because you're all on the NL West, if I'm gathering this right.
Oh, don't start. Are you about to start telling me about the AL East?
And that's what I'm going to tell you about.
Stop.
I'm going to tell you about what it looks like.
Boo.
It looks like the real best division in baseball. The historically best division in baseball, especially over the last couple of years. It looks like the AL East is what it looks like. Because let me just tell you, my O's are in last place.
Under 500 at that.
At 4-6.
Yep.
They're in last place at 4-6. They're 2 games out of first place. At this point, the ALS has a good Yankee team, an upstart, maybe fulfilling their potential Blue Jay team, definitely much better than last year Red Sox team, and I think an Orioles team that at the end of the day is going to be very high in the division. I don't know. The Rays, every once in a while, you're wearing the Montgomery Biscuits hat, Flebo.
I like the Rays. Don't blood.
Every once in a while, the Rays will shock you and shock their way into the playoffs. But I'm telling you now, from top to bottom, the AL East is as advertised right now. And if the Red Sox and the Blue Jays are good, along with the Yankees and Orioles,
it's no if.
I'm just saying it's the best division in baseball.
Let me also add the Rays. There was a list that was put into the chat. The Rays was like the best team in the AL East for the past 10 years. They had the best record. I was not expecting that.
It's true, but respectfully, Cheats, you're bugging. And here's the reason why. Year in and year out, I always put some chips down on the Blue Jays, and year in and year out, they find new ways to disappoint me in August and September. So yeah, April's great, May is delicious, but after that, it's the roller coaster. But the problem with the Rays is that they win well, and then every team goes shopping in Tampa Bay come to deadline. So they can never maintain the back half of the season. So yeah, it looks great. They may shock me, yeah, but we're not getting a Detroit Tigers situation where they sell and then they go into the playoffs. It ain't gonna happen. Stop it.
I'm getting there's a comment, my man, my Rays guy. JD is like, I'll bookmark this. We've been in more recent World Series than the O's. Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're not going back, Bruce. So that's
look,
not going back this year.
Look, hey, look.
So true.
I understand. I understand where we are, but I'm telling you, the AL East is I think going to be the toughest division, and I think it is the toughest division in baseball. And the Blue Jays, I'm with you, Flobo, on the Blue Jay stock. And where they're gonna be, but if you're a Blue Jay, you gotta feel better today, right? With this record, $500 million extension for Vladdy Jr., they got it done. This has got to make everyone feel a lot better in the Blue Jays organization. So now you're looking at a Blue Jay, future that has Vladdy in it. You have, I'm assuming it's Bo Bichette that's there. What's his name? George Springer is getting back to form. I don't know how to categorize George Springer right now, because he was like the epitome. He was like a microcosm of the Blue Jays, like a ton of potential, and it just wasn't doing it. George Springer looks like he's on board. Santander, Anthony, they took him from us. The Blue Jays, I think, have to feel good, right, with the Vlad extension if you're a Blue Jay fan.
I would say, yeah. I think if they would have lost Vlad, that was cause to blow up everything else and start over. Just because of the way they finished. And we're talking about this in the Black Baseball Mixtape Discord. By the way, if you're not on that Discord, you got to get that invite because it's really hot discussions.
Shout out.
It's just so hard to get free agents to play in Canada. And there's a bunch of reasons why for that. Some financial, some culture. I've actually MLB Network Radio, I'm a big fan of that, as you can tell, was mentioning that since the province of the city of Toronto doesn't allow pit bulls or dogs, certain certain kinds of breeds of dogs. There were some free agents I wouldn't sign just because of
Really?
that reason. And what do I do with my family members if I can't bring my pit bulls? Anyway, so it's a hard thing to build and craft. And so it's a good positive. 15 years, you can have all the souvenir cups and promotional nights, and Vladdy can open up new schools around town. That's how you build the culture around the team, whether or not they win championships or not.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of the extension, April?
I think it's great. I was actually worried that they would not be able to get it done. It's
Yeah,
obvious
I
that
think they get it done.
yeah, it's obvious that he wanted to be there. So to me, it made the most sense. Like, pay your player. Like, because let me go ahead and tell you, if you're not paying them, I know some people who will. And we are living in a time where you just can't let players like that walk. And also, I think it's important for a lot of these organizations to respect the face and value of your team. So to finally decide to give him what are to meet in the middle or whatever they ultimately decided. I was happy to see that because we've seen an off season where first basemen they literally were getting paid left and right.
Flobo, when it's all said and done, what looks like a better deal? Soto at $765 million or Vladdy's extension at what was it, $500 million?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that it's going to come down to chips, right? I think that'd be the big difference. Look, the Blue Jays are in a big city, but they have a very small town sensibility. I think Vlad is the guy on his team. I know you disagree on this, but Soto isn't the guy on his team. He is definitely one of the highest paid players on that squad. It's very hard to see a return on investment on more than or $750 million. So I'm gonna say this is actually team friendly for Toronto, give or take. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to be how many chips that each team gets. So
that's a good question and a good point, Flobo, that you raise, because we had this argument on podcast previous going into the season. I was very adamant that I believe that Juan Soto is the face of the franchise and the leader of the team.
No,
based off of based off of all the things, and I gotta fully remember the argument, but it was one of those where yes, I was like, I believe I said to an extent that Lindor was like Dwayne Wade.
correct.
LeBron James comes in town,
mm-hmm.
and Dwayne Wade says, "Here, LeBron, you are the leader. We will follow you." Right
Mm-hmm.
now that I've seen this play out for a week, 2 weeks, right? I strongly believe that it's up, like leadership in the Mets organization right now is up for grabs.
Hard disagree.
I mean, you disagree.
Hard disagree.
I'm saying, and again, I'm thinking it's between Soto, Lindor, and even Alonso. I think Alonso's had more leadership moments in the first 2 weeks than the other two guys. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, who's going to take the reins and be, like, the man for the Mets.
The hardest part about doing this job is making sure I don't become a fanboy about the Mets organization. But I'm gonna do it right now, right?
Okay.
So Alonso, as much as we liked him, and as much as I do think he can be, when the Mets were 0-5 last season, there was basically three men that shared responsibilities. That was Alonso because he's the hottest hitter at the time, Lindor because he posted up every day and played, and Brandon Nimmo, who's the most longest tenured Met currently. So he's been the Mets team the longest, I think, since 2016 or 17. Like, he's been there forever. I would say it's clearly Lindor. Between the MVP votes, between him working with the family situation, getting the culture change, having more of that family dynamic, it is far and away Francisco Lindor's team. Some people like to give it to Alonso, he's polar bear, but I think that extended re-signing, will he or won't they, kind of made him feel like a higher gun, even though he was a homegrown talent, which is a really odd position to be in. But I would say when it comes to captaincy or the head of the team, that's taking a stock of dip. So to me, it's Lindor 9.9 times out of 10 and like 0.1 for Nimmo if you want to get the guy who's been there the longest captaincy or being the leader of a team.
I think it's fascinating. I mean, Alonso leads the team in home runs, leads the team in RBIs. He's actually performing better than Soto and Lindor. But you're saying that doesn't matter.
Yeah, because when Homeboy threw his glove into the stands and we had the player meeting, it was led by Lindor. About a week ago, Kodai Senga had a start that when Lindor came back from paternity leave, they had 2 errors, and the Mets lost the game, 1-3 losses. And both men were upset. Lindor was like, man, I hate the fact that I've caused those 2 errors because I made 14 errors all year. Kodai was like, I am ashamed I didn't play at a level where the errors became the focus of the game.
Wait a second.
Like,
why is your Kodai voice like that?
Because it blows my mind. No, it just blew my mind. Like, who's ever like, yeah, it was because of my poor performance that exemplified my teammates' errors that caused the game to lose. I'm like, that's people falling on the sword for a leader. You don't do that with some random person in the locker room. You do that for like the guy who runs the game, and it has to be Lindor.
I read that his energy also is something that a lot of the players follow in that clubhouse. So,
oh no, I mean, look, I would say if it was a charisma battle, Lindor has the most charisma on the team, and I would say Alonso is like last. Right, like
no, he just can't run. Leave him alone.
No.
No, I definitely get paint drying on the wall.
I was there at spring training. I've seen Alonso at All-Star games. Alonso is from all case and points, from what I've seen up close, he's a very nice man. He goes out of his way to meet people, shake hands, do some autographs, and so forth. But he does not. I can't really remember who described it, but there are people that when they walk in the room, it doesn't matter if you're looking in their direction or not. There are people that have such charisma that they walk into the room and it's like they suck the oxygen out of the room and everybody looks to see who that person is. Lindor is one of those people. Lindor has that vibe. Alonso does not. Right? Like, it's going to be very hard for people to, I think, to kind of follow him. And Lindor is obviously he's social and he's fun and so forth, but he's not like overly loud, right? Like they're not looking at him just because he's overly loud. They're looking at him because he's kind of like he's like that dude, right? I have not, full disclosure, I've never been in a room with Juan Soto, so I don't know if Soto has that thing. Judge kind of has it because he's just so big.
Right.
Like when you see Aaron Judge, he's just massive. Shohei, when you see him in person, he's very big. You know what I mean? CC Sabathia is another guy that has that type of thing if you see him, you know? But I'll be interested as we move forward to see kind of where this Mets team falls in the line. And I think the other thing I'll say before we move on is I hope for your stake, Flobo, for the Mets, that you're right. And what I mean by that is I think Lindor has the ability, charisma, leadership quality, and obviously the play on the field to be the leader of the Mets and all the things that entails. And I'm not sure, even if, Alonso and Soto actually have better numbers, absolutely, I don't know if they have everything it entails, like characteristic-wise, that you need when you look at this is the person that should be like the leader of the team, if that makes sense.
I don't know what other metric you're using, right? Because you think about when the Mets get destroyed, he's the first one doing press conferences. He covers first team. Yep. Mark Vientos, Acuna, they had the drills in the offseason. He goes to Knicks games and shows himself out and to see how Derek Jeter used to be. Like, these are all boxes you check. And he has one a dope walk-up song. It's My Girl by the Temptations, man.
Right. He's just got the only thing left. And again, the Mets, where are we with the Mets right now in
5 in a row.
In the standings. 5
in a row.
So the Mets are 7-3.
Yeah,
like they're on top of the division along with the Phillies, who have been absolutely just amazing. The Phillies have been really good.
I don't want to talk about that right now.
I mean, they destroyed that other team. Oh yeah.
Last time we talked about the Phillies, I was saying that they weren't doing anything and they just took the series from us. So I'm gonna be quiet.
Last place Braves, right? That was your winning division.
Yeah. I mean, before we look, we're coming up on the hour. Before we get out of here, there's a couple other signings that there's a pattern that we've been talking about these organizations and these clubs locking up extremely these young players, multi-year deals, long-term deals. We just saw it with San Diego. Gave Jackson Merrill, $100 million, I believe. Christian Campbell from the Red Sox, who'd only played at the time, he'd only played 5 Major League Baseball games.
Mm-hmm.
They locked him up for 8 years, $60 million. Ketel Marte came out. The Snakes locked him up. These are all obviously players that they're really, really high on. These are players that were under team control for a long time. But if they lock them up now, not just for the organizations that seem to get, like I said, I think we're talking about this, they're taking a bit of the Dana Brown model on steroids, right? The same stuff that they did with Michael Harris and Spencer Strider for the Braves, like lock them up early, lock them up long term. These organizations are doing this with their young prospects all over. It's good for the club because I think they're going to get a team-friendly deal. I think all of them are pretty team-friendly deals, even when we talk about Vladdy's deal. Vladdy's deal is more team-friendly deal than it would be if he was going elsewhere or free agency or so forth. But the other side of this coin is, on the player side, they're getting guaranteed money, they're getting contracts, they're getting multiple years, and they're doing it before there's a potential, new CBA or possible work stoppage. So do you like this trend of, hey, let's get these organizations, let's get these young guys, sign them long-term now, and, more than likely we're going to have them locked up on pretty good club-friendly deals for a long time? Either one of you.
Go ahead, April.
Anybody have a strong opinion?
I don't really know if I like them because yes, they're young, but I also feel a way about owners cheapening the value of players. I don't know if maybe I'm saying that right. Because on the one hand, are they getting paid and is this generational wealth? Absolutely. But if we are talking about long term, what these players are giving, especially for Jackson Merrill, the MLBPA was like, don't take this deal. And he's like, no, I'm going to do a team friendly thing. And it reminds me of people in the workplace like, oh, I'm doing it for the team. Girl, they're not paying you. Like, you doing all this work and they're not paying you. They're not paying you your worth. And then, it was the little digs to Soto. And let me be clear, because I believe pay people their worth. So for me, like, I get that, yes, this is good for them, especially at their young age. But down the line, when they are doing exceptionally well and they're locked into these deals, what does it look like? And I also feel like this is a way for owners to get out of paying the Shohei Ohtani and the Juan Soto deals that they ultimately hate. They don't want these players to go to the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox who are willing to throw away the money. So they give them this, well, you're young, let's go ahead and sign you now. And this looks good, but this is not what you're worth for what you are producing for this team. So, yes.
I mean, hey, but let's be clear, because there is a risk on the franchise end of this, right?
It's a risk.
Like, yeah, I mean,
every contract is a risk, though.
Sure, absolutely. But we talked about, I think it was Campbell, Marte, Merrill. They also gave our guy Lawrence Butler. Lawrence Butler signed an extension for 6 years, $65 million. Lawrence Butler played half a season, he had a hot 3 months, right? And he's got now 6 years, $65 million. That was somebody that was getting what, 800,000, 700,000 a year, right? Without the deal extension. So, and some of these guys, Mike Harris, when he came off of his, that rookie of the year season, he got that long-term deal. And so the issue is also, I see both sides of it, right? I see the risk that the club, and again, the cautionary tale, and I think we might have talked about this, is Wander Franco, right? Franco with the Rays. They gave him that long-term deal right after that rookie season, and the Rays are out. The Rays are trying to claw some of that money back from breach of contract and things of that nature, right? So, but he's never going to be on the field again, right? So,
Right. I was thinking more Anthony Rendon if we're gonna talk about a player.
yeah, but
He's
I
not.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know how
I
young.
don't.
I
I
don't know
don't.
how young that deal was. Like, I don't know. Like, again, Christian Campbell, given Christian Campbell, who like I said, get your money, young man. But they 5 major league games, and he's at 8 years, 60 million. Is that what we decided? That was the number.
8 years, 60 million. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, we were talking to Christian Campbell. We were talking about Cam Smith. Yeah, even young guys like Jackson Holiday. They're Jordan Walker. Think about if they gave Jordan Walker out of 5 games.
Right.
I think it's a risk on
I
both
see
sides.
both sides. I'm just saying I also see that there are certain players I'm looking at them and I'm like, you play all over this field and you're just being paid this. So, but and again, I think that I'm more on the side of stop being cheap. Because y'all want to shortchange some of the players and come up off the pocketbook.
Would you do it though, April? I'm thinking of even some of the Dodgers prospects, right? Like if we're looking at this scenario, wouldn't you have given James Ottman like 5 years? I don't, you know what I'm saying? Guys that are in AAA right now. Who's the center fielder for the Giants now? Young guy, is it Pegas?
His.
Right, like I'm just saying.
Don't make me mad tonight.
No, I'm not.
I get that. Okay, from that perspective, I completely understand. Because if they gave him that kind of money, I'd be sick.
No, that's the question, Flobo. Before we get out of here, would you if you're a GM, do you like this strategy or do you not? Because again, you're investing in these players that may or may not be major league players full time for a long time and a lot of guaranteed money.
Well, I mean, I kind of, as a GM, and I'm a nerd, so I play over over the out of the park baseball, was the GM game. Is that your window is shifting now because there really was a chance where you would say, "Let me do the free agent market." I'm not sure if this is a backlash of the work stoppage or do we say the Boras era where everyone tried to hold out as long as you can. It's almost worthy enough to either take the money now or get the money out now, and if it's a complete flop, just say cost of doing business, let me cut bait, then rather just try to wait to get some kind of superstar, some kind of hired gun NBA style at free agency. So I understand why teams do it. It's a much smaller investment that can pay off dividends. You get them when they're young and they have bright eyes and they kind of dream of only being with one club, which is kind of naive, but you exploit that for your advantage. I say go for it. If you agree to the deal, then it's on you. That's what Merrill said. Hey, look, they told me not to do it, but I love San Diego a whole lot. You're like, okay, brother. I hope you know what you're doing.
No, man, look, I see the trend. I mean, the good part is hopefully there's a lot of young players that are locked up on franchises that we can root for years to come. That's the other thing. I think the other thing, too, though, is when you're talking extension like this, and we hate to say it this way, but money impacts the opportunities you get on the field, right? They're going to cut bait with your minor league contract guys. They're going to cut bait with your guys that are under team control. If they're giving you, 65 million and you're in year 3, you could not necessarily be performing, but they're going to try to make it work, right? Because you're an investment, right? You're an investment where under certain people that may not have signed those extensions, I was just talking about the number of, I think, legitimate major league players that are playing in AAA right now. They're playing there because none of them got these extensions, these long-term deals, and they're constantly looking over their shoulder, and they're going to get moved or traded or sent down if the opportunity comes awry. These guys, by signing these extensions in most ways, are almost taking themselves off the chessboard, right? Like Cedric Mullins this year for the Orioles is probably going to be a legitimate chess piece when it comes to the trade deadline. He's playing extremely well. And so maybe the Orioles, make a run, there's certain things, but if anything dips, he's a major chess piece, right? If you're under a long-term guaranteed contract, multi-years, and you're super young, you kind of almost take yourself off the board of being a chess piece, right? good or bad.
You do, but we've seen it with the 23 Snakes and 24 Royals. Like the secret sauce now, it just seems to get young players who are willing to commit early and some veterans that have something to playing hungry,
Yep.
basically. And props to Juan Soto for getting his money and Vlad Guerrero for getting his money. But again, the cautionary tales with the Jordan Montgomery wasn't the same. Pete Alonso didn't get the years he wanted because he thought he was getting a sweetheart deal because of the holdout for the most money possible. So that's what's going to go towards. Maybe the next CBA changes that or encourage the free agent stuff or maybe moves back some kind of service thing. That's a huge untouchable issue. But right now, we're going to see that only increase.
Yeah, you're right. And again, it's also very hard. Like I remember when the Ohtani deal came out. I guess it was last summer, and everybody was like, "You really can't compare that to anything else because Ohtani was such a unique player." I do think it's changing a little bit. Merrill's pretty young, right, with the extension, but there was that wave of Soto, Vladdy Jr. and Tatis. And it's like those guys were basically unheard of. Like they're breaking into the majors at like 21 years old. You know what I mean? And it's like that did not happen. For the regular kind of journey, right? So their clocks, the Fernando Tatis Jr., the Vladdy Jr., and the Soto. The fact that Soto hit free agency at like 26 is unreal. The average free agency age is 29. So it's like they were so accelerated. And also, let's mention those three guys are phenomenal. Right? Like those guys are not normal, like by any stake of the imagination. Those are three, I think it's safe to say, Hall of Famers, right? Unless Tatis gets dinged, right? But they're Hall of Fame players. So it's like
absolutely.
I just their clocks started so early that I think it kind of skews people's vision in a way. And I hope Jackson Merrill and Christian Campbell and I think Law's 24, so he's even older than Christian Campbell and Jackson Merrill. Michael Harris was pretty young when he got his extension, and that was
and even Key Brian Hayes, he's another one. He got the extension too.
Yeah, so. Oh man, a lot of baseball, a lot of things to discuss. We are out of time tonight on the pod. I want to thank everyone really quickly before we go. There's a lot of comments on the Instagram. I apologize for some of the technical issues earlier, but I want to thank you all for bearing with the production team, if you will. Obviously, thank you, April and Flobo, for your time as always. Want to thank our sponsors one last time. Steelers Sports, the Players Alliance, Rebellion Harvest, Sunflower Seeds, Numbers Game Scorecards, Minority Prospects, Red, Black, and Green Baseball. I know I will be up in your hometown, Flobo, this weekend.
Let's go.
I will be in the tri-state area. I'll be hitting the Yankee game if weather permits on Saturday, so I'll be there. There's a couple of things that are happening with the Yankees and some of the Players Alliance stuff that I'll be on hand for this particular weekend. It's raining really heavy up and down the East Coast, so and there's some snow. I think you saw some snow in the Midwest, and there's all kinds of the weather issues. But this podcast will be streaming everywhere. You can also subscribe on YouTube. Flobo, you missed it. You mentioned the Discord. There is a brand new In the Booth that dropped today. Make sure you subscribe to that. We thank you for that. Wednesday, there's a new 10th Inning Talk hosted by All About April. So make sure you're subscribed to that. If you do want to join our Discord, DM me at the Black Baseball Mixtape. We'll send you the link for the Discord. What am I missing, gang? What am I missing?
Thursday? Giving that show this Thursday?
There I probably will be at Instagram Live on Thursday. I say that because I'm probably 80 to 85% positive that there will be. But if there isn't, it's because our Thursday IG Live co-host Lewis Brinson and I will be together on Friday. So we're going to be together in the tri-state area on both Friday and Saturday. So the question is, do we do something together live,
Mm.
or do we keep? We'll probably
Why
keep.
not both?
It's a lot of
Content,
work.
baby.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
I'm putting you to work. I'm sorry, my bad. Chop, chop, chop.
But if you want content tomorrow morning, sometime in the morning, probably before 9:30, 10 o'clock, there will be a new Finish Your Breakfast daily recap of all the Black baseball news. And we'll probably mention there may be a photo or a clip of what happened today in DC. We'll see.
The Dodgers losing? What? Oh, the handshake. Right.
Not too much. Not too much.
My bad.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. We are out. Catch you next time.